David here with Figboot on Pens, back again with another fountain pen review. I have made no secret of my fondness for Leonardo pens. They have done a very good job of coming out with a wide variety of colors and materials and sizes in a relatively short period of time. And it's one of those brand new models that I have to share with you today. That model is called the Mosaico. What I have is two versions of the pens to show you today. What I'm going to do is go over the parts and features of the Mosaico, talk about what I care for and what I don't care for about it. I'll show some measurements, size comparisons, and provide a writing sample with a couple of very unique nibs. Thanks go out to the good folks at Leonardo for providing the pens you will see today for review. And here they are. This is the Hawaii, and then this is the Mango. I really like the looks of the material for these two pens. The interesting thing is that you have seen this material before. It's the exact same resin used in the Leonardo Momento Zero Hawaii and Mango models. You can see here the material is the same, but in the Mosaico it's just been cut up and layered vertically, almost like a butcher's block. I think it's really cool that the same material can produce an entirely different look. You can see that both of the Mosaico models here I have the rhodium trim, but they're also available with a gold trim. Now, Mosaico is the Italian word for mosaic. Now, I can't recall if I've ever shared this on my channel before, but one of my favorite artists is a woman by the name of Nikki de Saint-Phalle. She worked with a number of mediums, but her most well-known works are large mosaics. She spent her later years in the San Diego area, and a number of her pieces of her work are scattered around town. There's some at UCSD, some downtown by the convention center, and a couple in Balboa Park. But my favorite installation of hers is in what is called North County, Escondido to be more specific, about a half hour north of downtown, in a place called Kit Carson Park. It's called Queen Khalifa's Magic Circle, and it's a very large sculpture garden. It has a maze entryway, and then there are 10 large totems. In the center, Queen Khalifa herself sits atop a colorful bird. Just for some scale, these totems range from 11 to 21 feet, and the top of the queen is 24 feet. It utilized a wide variety of mosaic techniques with tiles and natural stone, and then there was other materials. It's just really a special place. If you're ever in the San Diego area, it's well worth a visit. Okay, let's get back to these two very cool pens. While I love both of these colorways, for the sake of the review, let's just focus on the Mango. I think it shows up a little bit better here on camera. And then let's start by taking a look at the top of the cap. It comes to a rounded point. Then we have the clip. From what I have seen, Leonardo uses the same sized clip on virtually all of their pens. I've always been very fond of the wheeled design. On the standard Momento Zero, the clip seems a little bit more size appropriate. On the larger models like the Momento Zero Grande and this Mosaico, the clip looks just slightly smaller than it could be. But I don't find that to be a major issue at all. The cap angles up slightly and then straightens out. And then at the end of the cap, there is a large band with a woven design with two thinner bands on either side of it. Then there's a stair step down to another thin band, which signifies the beginning of the barrel. The barrel is straight for about the first inch or so before tapering down at a fairly even angle until you reach another band, which indicates the beginning of the piston knob. And at the end of the knob, like the top of the cap, it has a rounded point. There will be engraving on the barrel. The pens will be numbered, but they are not a limited edition. The two pens I have in my possession are not engraved. I believe that these are pre-production prototypes. The cap twists off with a single rotation, and underneath we have something cool. It is a number 6 stainless steel flex nib. I believe Leonardo is using Jowo nibs. Jowo flex nibs have that distinctive oval cutout on the shoulder. This Mango has a fine flex nib, and the Hawaii has an extra fine. I'll show you the difference between the two during the writing sample. The flex option may or may not be available at all retailers, but the nib is also available in extra fine, fine, medium, broad, and a 1.1 stub. There's also gold options as well. And here's a look at the plastic feed. The section begins with a slight flare. This is more of a traditional section design as opposed to the stair-step design you can find on most Leonardo pens. While I do care for their standard section design, I like this one as well, and I really like that they switched things up a bit. The section isn't overly long and transitions into the cap threads, and then there's a step up to the remainder of the barrel. With the section not being that long, I do find my grip spills over a bit onto the threads, but they are not sharp at all, and this pen is very comfortable in the hand. The cap does post. It does post securely, and I feel it's light enough that it really doesn't make the pen overly cumbersome. The pen is very well balanced as well when posted. I mentioned the piston knob previously. This is a piston filler. I won't twist it now because the pen is inked, but I do find the piston mechanism to work well. It's fairly smooth and you're able to get a decent fill. Now, something that is very important, with most piston fillers, the section is not removable, but I've been told that with the Mosaico, the feed is affixed as well. So if you wanted to remove or change out the nib, then the nib alone can be pulled out. Now, with that being the case, I wouldn't just simply mess with disassembling this pen. Not every pen is meant to be disassembled for cleaning. Just leave the nib alone and just flush some warm water through it in order to clean it out if you want to change inks. The Leonardo Mosaico is available from a number of retailers and sells for $295 with a stainless steel nib or $549 with a gold nib. I feel that both of these price points are very reasonable for what you receive with this model. I'm very fond of the larger Momento Zero Grande size of this pen. This one is just a couple millimeters smaller, but it's still a large pen. I like the inclusion of the thicker section as well. While I like their other stair-step section, if I ever do another project with a larger pen with Leonardo, I'd be very tempted to have this section. But overall, I think both of these Mosaic models look very sharp, and I'd recommend checking them out. Okay, now it is time for some measurements, size comparisons, and a writing sample. Here we go with some size comparisons for the Leonardo Mosaico. I wanted to give you another close-up look at that material. I really think that in the light, it shows up very interesting. I think of the two, I probably like the mango a little bit more, but it's a close call. I think that both the Hawaii and the mango look really, really sharp. In regard to some size comparisons, first of all, here is the standard Momento Zero again, and this is the Hawaii model, and then this is the mango model. Maybe if I put these next to each other, you can kind of see again how it's the very same material, but just chopped up a little bit differently. And here it is with another Leonardo. This is a Momento Zero Grande. I have a review of this on my channel. This is the Ocean Sunrise, which is another just beautiful pen. And you can see, maybe if I put them next to each other, that it is just slightly larger than the Mosaico. In regard to some non-Leonardo pens, here it is with a Pelikan M1000. And here it is with a Mont Blanc 149. And then here it is with a Visconti Homo sapiens. In regard to some uncapped comparisons, this is what it looks like with the Mont Blanc 149. And here it is with the Homo sapiens. And then here it is with a standard Momento Zero model. Okay, here we have the writing sample for the Leonardo Mosaico. And this is a fine flex nib. And the ink, appropriately enough for this orange pen, is Leonardo Oroncio Tarocco. This orange ink is turning into one of my favorite oranges. It's really nice and vibrant. This is what it looks like in regard to Ackerman Orange A Bovin, as well as another one of my favorite oranges, which is the Robert Oster Pen Addict Fire on Fire. And then in regard to the Hawaii pen, I'll show in a second, I have that loaded up with Leonardo Blue, and this is what it looks like in comparison to Krishna Peacock Blue, and then the infamous Noodler's Bay State Blue. This is what the Leonardo 40 milliliter bottle looks like. Their inks are very nice. I'd recommend checking them out as well. And here we go with the rest of the writing sample. I will say for a flex nib, it doesn't necessarily provide, we'll say, easy flex, that if you push it, then starting off with no pressure and even more, then yeah, you can get some line variation, but it doesn't necessarily happen naturally, that you have to kind of put some intent behind it. The ink flow is decent coming out of this nib in regard to reverse writing. It's slightly scratchy, but not too bad, but lays down a nice extra fine line. And then in regard to some fast writing, the feed keeps up just fine. And then in regard to the extra fine flex nib, let's see. On this one, I find that it does give a little more variation. It is a little bit more feedback on this particular nib. I wouldn't necessarily categorize it as scratchy, but just a little bit more feedback. In regard to the ink flow, I do feel it's nice on this one as well. Here it is with reverse writing. It's slightly sharp, but it gets the job done. And then in regard to some fast writing, you know what? I was holding it at an odd angle there, and that's why that actually happened. There you go. Other than my mistake, the nib performed just fine, and the feed kept up just fine. So here we have the Leonardo Mosaico. I think this is a really interesting addition to the Leonardo lineup, and I think it's interesting how you could use these same materials for a pen that you previously used, but it just present them in a different way, and it gives it a totally different look. Until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.